Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Guy, and today we are taking a first look, not by any means a new game, but a new game to me. This is IL2 Sturmovik Battle of Stalingrad. So, just a little disclaimer, this is not the first time I've popped into this game. I've done the 4 tutorial missions of the campaign, and yeah, there's some stuff about this game that I really like, and some stuff that I'm not quite sure if it's like janky or quite what's going on here, but I figured I'd do a campaign mission, and we'll just take a look at it together. So let's pop right in. There is one campaign, the Battle of Stalingrad. Of course, this was the disastrous winter offensive by Hitler's army into Russia. And it was just a bad time for everybody, but it was a huge deal. So I did purchase the deluxe edition, I guess. So let's take the LA5 for a spin. I haven't actually flown it yet, so this should be interesting. There's normal, which is auto-managed radiator control and propeller pitch, and I don't quite have that all set up properly yet, so I'm going to do that for now. Expert is full management of the engine, as well as I don't think there's any waypoints or anything like that visible on the screen. So and then the duration, so there's short and full. Full, which we're going to do, is take off from runway and land on runway, but short is you start in the air. It's like an in-air spawn. We're going to do Intercept. We're going to go find an IL2. Oh, wait, no, we're on the Russian side. We're going to find a Heinkel 111 or a Stuka and blow the crap out of it. Alright, so 64 kilometers to our target, and our target is enemy bombers, which we will intercept and hopefully blow the living daylights out of. So let's start. Now, here's the first screen you see in the mission. It's our map overview, so we have our home field, and then our waypoint, and it gives you, actually, this is really nice, a distance and then an estimated time of flight for that leg of the journey. So our first, there's generally 4 waypoints in a mission, it seems. You have your home field, your waypoint, which is your initial navigation point, the action point, which is where all the action takes place, and your exit point. And you're going to see this later, but at the exit point, you can optionally just end the mission there, or alternatively, you can fly back to the home field, land, and get some more experience. Now, there is multiplayer. I haven't popped into that yet, but I do, from what I understand, you do need to have completed some of the campaign, some missions. You have to have some experience in order to unlock certain things for your planes, such as upgraded cannons, ammunition belts, certain loadouts, like certain bomb loads, maybe certain rocket loads for certain planes, and we'll see how that goes. But right now, this is just our mission briefing here. It's pretty simple. Take off, intercept bombers. They're going to be at 5,000 meters, so that's a good thing to know. And then just some basic information about every waypoint. So again, take off, nav point, kill bombers, leave, go home. And we're going to see if we can do that. All right, here we are. First thing in the cockpit, it'll pause it for us. And you'll notice that it's pretty detailed. Here, let me just recenter track IR here. It's pretty detailed. In fact, all the gauges are fully functional. That said, they're hard to read, which, from what I understand, these old planes were not the greatest maintained, especially the Russian ones, so we'll see how that goes. But, oh, is that a flare gun we have there? That's interesting, and these must be the flares. I'm sure we can use those, but I'm not quite sure how. So, it's really pretty. It is, however, a little weird when you first step in the cockpit, at least coming from DCS, which is my experience. We have a little bit of a strange sort of depth of field, and then there's no real zoom view, I guess. It's odd. I'm going to try to explain it a little bit better later on. but let's just get our aircraft up in the air here. Full power, track down the runway. This handles more like a German fighter because of the way the prop is spinning. But the lag, which I did the tutorial missions in, had the prop torque in the other direction. So let's go gear up. Probably throttle on back. We do have automatic radiator control, and we do have pitch trim as well as aileron trim, and I believe, yep, rudder trim there. So if we need to, oh, we're actually leading a forward flight, it seems. So yeah, this is the other thing about the normal sort of realism setting. You have what looks like a bunch of markers, and as far as I can tell, you can't turn off the waypoint stuff. But yeah, it's just something I'm gonna have to play with. And you can see on the lower left corner of our screen, we have our Schwack cannon, sort of, not really ammunition counter. I guess it's an ammunition sort of percentage kind of bar. Our altitude in meters, our airspeed in kilometers an hour, and the heading of our aircraft, as well as the heading of the wind and the velocity of that wind. In the top right, you can see we have certain controls sort of turned on for easy mode. We have auto mixture, auto prop pitch, and auto radiator control, so we don't have to worry too much about overheating our aircraft or anything. And you're going to notice that this sun is just thoroughly annoying, and that's something I haven't decided if I liked or disliked yet. The map is just covered in snow, and everything from the 4 campaign tutorial missions I flew so far looks identical. All the airfields are pretty much identical. They're almost impossible to distinguish at a distance. So I'm trying not to come into this from a perspective of a DCS pilot. I'm trying to come at this of a perspective of someone who might not have flown a flight sim of this caliber before. But it's got some really nice graphical effects. The clouds are really pretty here. It almost looks like a painting, the way they're kind of fluffed out. And I noticed that at least during recording, my performance on the ground was kind of but once we get higher, the objects on the ground start to not render as much, so that should mean solid smooth 60 frames in the air for you guys. When I'm not recording, however, it's a solid 60 the whole way around, and it should be mentioned that I do have a GTX 980 in this rig, but even on ultra settings and 4 times, I assume, multi-sampled anti-aliasing, it looks pretty good. I knocked it down to 2 times MSAA just because I didn't feel like 4 was really that necessary. But yeah, the engine sounds sound really nice, and the whole cockpit, like, everything's loud. And every time you adjust a control, you get like that little notification, which is nice to see, but I wonder if any of that can be disabled. Now, coming from DCS, the first thing you're going to notice is that the cockpit is not clickable, which can either be a blessing or a curse, depending on your point of view, but again, it's not really aiming to be that full-fledged simulation. Let's take a look back at my wingmen here. They're in a nice line abreast formation. Actually, that's not even a line abreast, that's trailing. So push up the throttle a little bit here and see if we can climb a little bit quicker. All the gauges, again, do work, and I can zoom. I haven't mapped the zoom successfully to my joystick, my HOTAS, and I'm not quite sure how. I can go into the settings and do it, but it doesn't quite work. But numpad plus and minus seems to be fine, which is the defaults. And I'm not very well versed in Russian or Cyrillic, so most of this is just gibberish to me. I know the left-hand gauge with the little yellow dot in the middle, that's fuel. Obviously my gun sight is standard Russian issue gun sight, so there's nothing to read there. The one in the center of the screen now is airspeed in kph. And then below the center is obviously altitude in meters. And it feels like there should be a gauge there. There's a hole there. And there aren't fully functional navigation and landing lights, and again the switches aren't clickable, but I think they do change positions. I haven't tested that. The rudder pedals, obviously, visually modeled. In the Russian stuff there's a brake lever, just like the DCS MiG-21. So that's a little interesting to use. It's a little different than toe brakes. And we're up at here 2 kilometers. Let's push the throttle up a little more for the climb. Again, we're intercepting our targets at 5 kilometers. We're 12 kilometers away from our first navigation point, which is okay. And then, of course, we have our slip and bank indicator, which is handy-dandy. There's no artificial horizon in these Russian planes. Generally, what would happen is you'd have like a ball hanging from the railing up top, the framing of the framework of the canopy. I'm not quite sure if anything is implemented of the sort here. Some more steam gauges off to our right. We have our pitch trim knob off to our left here. You can see it moving. I'm actually going to trim up a little bit, see for a steeper climb. And I'm guessing these are all temperatures on the right hand side. Probably pressures. One of these is probably like a radiator temp. But again, this is normal, which I guess is easy mode because everything's modeled to be automatic. So 6 kilometers and closing to our waypoint. And again, this is interesting because it's the field of view. You can't zoom out any further than this. So like this is it in terms of field of view maximum, which for a combat flight sim is okay. But I know some people in DCS like to fly with their zoom a little funky further out. Man, that sun is really bright. I don't know if it's just the winter or what, but okay, so we've hit our first navigation point. It is now 36 kilometers to the combat area, presumably combat area. And we'll see what we're going to set. So we'll just turn on in. Now, during the tutorial missions, I started with like less than 100% fuel in most of them. So I'm not sure if the fuel gauge is accurately modeled. There's got to be some sort of way to check, but I don't know, maybe that's something I'll figure out later down the line. I know the compass works, everything else pretty much works. Now, I should tell you that I haven't done anything crazy. I haven't, like, brought the prop pitch really far back and put the throttle and manifold pressure really far forward. I haven't busted the engine. I have tried landing a few times. One time I put her down, the gear collapsed under me once I came to a stop, and the prop banged and the engine stopped, obviously, so that was interesting. The other one, I came in, I believe there was a 109E4? Or, no, it must have been an F4. And I came in, I sort of did a nice little spin, so that was fine. I don't have too much trouble landing the World War II aircraft in DCS, but then again, these are modeled rather different, and I have not had, I don't have more than an hour in this game so far, I'd say. And the first 4 missions took about 40 minutes, and here we are an hour in, so... there's landing gear lights down there, there's the brake lever which you can see moving, and you can hear the nice little hiss. I know with these prop planes there tends to be a lot of slip, and I tend to not trim constantly. I could, obviously. You can see that I can just like take my slip indicator and try and put it in the middle there with the yaw trimmer. I'm not sure where that yaw trimmer actually is. That's interesting. I don't see a physical movement of a piece here, but I'm sure it's somewhere. I'm just not looking hard enough. I did intercept a Stuka. I don't think it shot back at me, so it was pretty much easy mode. I shot a truck on the ground that was traveling along a road, and is it just me, or is it really hard to see the ground? This doesn't feel good, if you know what I mean. That sun's too bright. I mean, I can see the ground if I zoom in, but like sitting up here in a cockpit, I don't have a good orientation of where everything is, especially with no artificial horizon, and there's not a whole lot of ground to look at, because it all sort of blends in. It's all a white blur. I'm going to have to play with the graphic settings and see if there's some setting that I can dial down to try and fix that. Actually, that's a good option right now. We can pause the game. We're going to go into settings, and we can go basic options while we're in-game. There's, I recall, 3 levels of graphic settings. There's a frame limiter. I had to turn on VSync because I had screen tearing, but your mileage may vary with that. There's different settings for the HUD, and obviously volume that you can play with. So, yeah. That's just the in-game stuff, but I'll go over the real settings, so to say, once this mission's over. Okay, so we're in the combat area, and you could see the radio transmission. It's really hard to hear, but they were speaking in authentic Russian, and the Germans do speak in authentic German, so everything's good on that end, if you're into that sort of realism. Wow, that sun is bright. I really wish there was some way to tone that down, but again, I'm not sure if that's like super realistic or whatnot. The gun sight is particularly dim, I've been noticing, but again, I'm not an expert. I just like my gun sights nice and bright. So let's go ahead and push the speed up here. We're nearly at 5 kilometers. I'm just trying to climb as fast as we can here. I'm not sure where our targets are. We've got our buddies off to our left hip. It is very loud. Immersion is a strong suit of this cockpit. It all looks and it feels good, more importantly. You have arrived at the mission action point. Okay, yeah, it feels good. Like there's nothing that's really unauthentic. And if there is, I really haven't found it yet. At least with initial impressions. So we're prepping for combat here. Just trying to find a nice stable elevator trim spot here. Trying to trim out as best we can. It's easy enough to trim. The percentages are nice to see, and I'm going to have to take a look at these temperatures as we get going. Faster and faster and higher. It's winter time, so I don't think overheating is really an issue. You know, 5 kilometers up in the winter, I really don't think overheating is going to be a problem. Oh, and look at that. Off to our left, we have our enemy bombers. These are presumably Heinkel 111s. Though they could be stupid, I really have no idea. I wasn't given any detailed information. And it seems that my buddies are just off to the races. Ooh, contrail? I can't quite tell. I don't know what the contrail sort of minimum range is in this game, but the contrails look really pretty. Again, good looking game. The aircraft feel true to life. Like, they look true to life. The field of view doesn't look weird. I'm running a 22-inch 1920 by 1080 monitor, and nothing feels like stretched or weird or anything. Oh my. These guys just wrecked him. I'm really sort of disappointed that they just wrecked him with no... Okay, so there's a Heinkel 111 H6 and the G2 Escort. So let's see if we can bag this guy here. Okay. No luck there. Alright, nice little high yo-yo here. Again, I'm not too well versed into the World War II dogfighting. So any maneuvers you might see me make are truly that of a noob and should be taken as such. I'm not pretending to be an expert. Ooh, I thought he was going to snap roll on me there. Now I'm zoomed out in and I can't seem to find him. These high altitude dogfights feel kind of weird because everything's like just light and floaty because of the lack of air, I guess, over the wings. Of course there is air going over the wings, that's how we're flying, but it's not a lot. And I have the distance on that G2, but I can't really tell how far away he is. There's not... Oh, sorry for the check error there. There's not a whole lot in the ways of... Ooh, you could hear the stall there. That stall felt aggressive. Felt like it could get bad. And you can hear it. I don't know if the indicated airspeed is there, or the true airspeed, or what. My guess is indicated, because that's more important to actually flying. I have these two Schwacks, and I don't know what the ballistic arc on them is like, and I should really just try and outturn this guy, because I'm a turn fighter. If my primitive knowledge of Russian aircraft is correct, I can outturn a G2. He can outdive me, he can outvertical me, but I can outturn him. We'll see if we can't get an air-to-air kill during our time on this mission. We could just leave, but he's a threat. I want to eliminate the threat. So. Are you? Wow. Alright. GG. Good job, AI Wingman. Alright, time to throttle back and turn toward the green go button. Go marker. That's kind of disappointing. I'm like, for a mission, your wingmen should be more supportive and not that aggressive. Maybe, I think there's a control somewhere to make them less. Flight leader commands. Formation, patrol, look ahead. I don't know if there's a way to make them just do nothing. And just sort of like support you and get bandits off your sights. Okay, it seems that this is the prop pitch gauge right here, this little clock looking thing. I've never understood why it's like a clock, but maybe that's just because I'm dumb. Oh, and the other thing, I've never done an external view, so this is the first flyby view that I've ever had. That's a good looking aircraft. Oh wow. That's really nice. I really like that. It's shiny. It's nice. It's really nice. You can get like infinite customization in this in terms of skins and things that you can unlock. Oh, I like the nice little touch. It's hard to see, but you can see the little engine flames coming out of the exhaust nozzles there. In the lag, in the lag 3, you could see it even during startup. You can stick your head out the window, and it's really nice to see. Let's do another flyby. Wow, that's pretty. All right, back to the in-cockpit view. Actually, let's test some more flyby views, or outside views. F5, I'm assuming, is ground units. Yep, that's a train. I don't care about a train. Although, that's a well-modeled train, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me why they'd go to that detail of modeling a train, but I guess for the limited number of ground targets you have, you want to make them look good, right? So there's our tail cam, as it were. It was almost nauseating. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I'm sticking to the in-cockpit view. That was a little too cinematic for my taste. Okay. We can trim out. That looks good. On the slip. And then... yeah. Again, maybe this is not the case for the German planes because they have artificial horizons, but at least in this Russian plane, it's really hard to tell which way is perfectly level. I mean, you're constantly looking at the vertical speed indicator here, and it's in meters per second, or meter segundo in Russian, so let me actually bring up the map real quick. So there's our initial map, and if we press M again, we can get our big map. So you can see the whole of our mission, and then presumably it's just another 5 minutes down to land. So initial impressions of that first fight. Even though I didn't get the shot off, I think it's worth saying that making aggressive moves felt aggressive, and making sort of that gentle initial high yo-yo that I did was really solid. Like, it felt smooth, it felt sort of lackadaisical almost. And the gun sounds, here, I'll shoot the Schwacks again. They sound really good. And the German ones sound pretty good too. I'll have to do a follow-up video in a 109 or something. Alright, so here's the exit point. If I press escape, I can finish the mission now, but I am going to go land, and our airfield is 36 kilometers away, so I'm going to just cut the throttle a little ways and start our descent. We're at 3,000 meters, and we can easily just trim out for a nice steady descent. Again, I'm not sure how I feel about sort of the melding, I guess, of the clouds and the sky into the ground. It's really hard to give you that sense of, I guess, depth. Like, if I zoom in, it's more apparent, but with the zoom at, I guess, default, it's not as perceptive that you're really up high. When you're down low, like, it feels down low, but when you're up high, it's weird. Like, I can turn and look out the window like that, and I can see the clouds, and I get the depth, but that cloud, I can't quite tell how far that cloud is. It's interesting. I can see the clouds further beyond it, but, like, I don't get a sense of depth as to where that cloud would be. And maybe that's just something that you have to deal with in a 2D environment when you have, you know, a physical monitor. Maybe in something like the Oculus Rift or other virtual reality stuff, that wouldn't be the case. But for me, looking outside the cockpit, it's just weird, at least in level flight. Like, if I turn over and I look, I can tell how far the ground is, but I don't know if it feels like I'm 2 kilometers up. It's strange. It's one of those things you might have to jump in and play for yourself to figure it out. But I'm not sure if I'm alone in saying this. Now the cockpit, I know I've said it again, everything looks really nice, but like the skin externally looks pretty nice. Of course, you can always go better. You can have high resolution textures and stuff, but like the stuff that I'm looking at, like here, like it's a little shaky, but the gun sight looks good. You can sort of like tell that that is stitched leather on the sort of gun sight there, and in a P-51 that would say no handhold, but yeah, you can sort of tell that everything's been well crafted enough. It's not like 9,000% sort of texture resolution like you get with some games, not necessarily flight sims, but just games in general that are really high resolution textures. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, but it's not coming to me. Maybe like Shadow of Mordor, that came out. I haven't played it yet, but like that comes with 4K textures and requires nice big beefy video cards. But like for the amount of aircraft that are in this game, which is a few air-to-ground aircraft, so like there's the Peshka, there's the Sturmovik, and I think there might be something else, and there's the LA-5, the Lag 3, and the Yak 1. So that's roughly 5 aircraft, I think. I think it's about 5 aircraft per side. And then on the German side, you get the Stuka, the Heinkel 111, the 198-3, the 109 F4, and I think the 109 G2. So 10 aircraft total, and considering that's a relatively small number of aircraft, that's a good enough modeling of the individual aircraft. So yeah, as I get closer to the ground, you can sort of tell the depth perception comes back. At least it feels more back. You can start seeing the depth of the trees and some other stuff that at least I couldn't tell from up high. Maybe that's because of the resolution I'm playing at. I don't think 1080 is an unreasonable resolution to play at. Like 1920 by 1080, that's full HD. That's what most people are playing at. And you can see there's like little markers for units and stuff, but like if I said pick out the airfield, I honestly wouldn't be able to see it. Or like that marker there is over the airfield, and if I zoom in I can tell, oh, that's a improved strip. Okay. And there's like a little tower there for whatever air control. If I'm zoomed out, unless I'm right over it, there's no way I can tell that that is an improved airstrip. I mean, granted, it's not like a runway that we have in DCS, and even in DCS the runways are pretty hard to spot, unless you know where to look. So let me actually start this approach. I'm going to throttle up a little bit and start dropping the flaps. I'm not quite lined up with the runway, but that's okay. I want to be a little further out. I'm going to drop the gear and start feeding in some nose up trim. Now, I've done my landings rather fast, and I'm not sure how fast these landings are supposed to go, because in the landing tutorial it's not like you should land at X airspeed. There was none of that. And then, I mean, I could go look up tutorials, I'm sure, on the internet somewhere, but I don't know. I'd rather just have that information in-game. And I think it might be somewhere. There might be an encyclopedia or something about these aircraft that I just don't know about yet because I haven't found it. But yeah, I mean, we can take a look. And it seems our wingmen are derping around a little bit. And if we zoom in, we can see the strip. And it starts basically just in between those two blue dots and where the marker is. So cut up a little bit. We are full nose up. We are cleared to land. And from what I can tell, there's no visual difference between airfields. So if you manage to spot an airfield out in the wild, then there's no way to tell whose it is unless they shoot at you or not. I guess that would be one good way to tell. But let me just focus on this landing for a minute. Oh, we are well left of the runway. Wow, okay. I screwed up this approach a little bit, but it's wide enough that I don't really care. Oh, good job, AI. Suck in the throttle. Okay. A little bit of a bounce. A little more of a bounce. Just try and track. Oh, okay. Dig the wing in. And brakes. Okay, clear the runway. I can do that. I can easily do that. Excuse me while I clear the runway. Yeah, and you get the bumpy feeling because it's snow, it's unimproved, so pop on the brake, and let's see if we can press, I think it's E to turn off the engine, yep. So it'll give you the full, like, checklist. And again, it's not a clickable cockpit. You can't do any of this yourself, but it is nice to sort of give you the overview. I think we're almost done. That's nearly it. And then we press right Alt-C to open the canopy. Nice little sound, and you can hear the ambiances a little better now. It's just wind. Because, I mean, it's outside of Stalingrad, which is Russia. It's empty. There's not a whole lot here. There's no birds. There's no... I mean, I don't hear any birds. I'm sure there are birds, but I don't hear anything. I don't even hear other aircraft. It's odd. They're only 4 kilometers away. You'd think you'd hear something, but maybe not. Maybe they get rendered closer in. But yeah, that'll do it for this mission, and I will see you in a jiffy back at the main menu, and we'll just take a look over there. All right, and just a quick overview of our after action report. We get experience, most related pilot level 3. We get some new modifications that I'm not sure if that is a bugged sound. That's got to be a bug sound. That does not sound right. Okay, so we got some new skins. So if we look at the Li-5, we can do full. Let's just pretend it's another Intercept mission. We go, okay, plane setup. And we got a nice white skin, and you can look through and preview all the skins in the particular aircraft. Obviously, it's winter; everything's white, so you're gonna want something white to do in multiplayer. So there's a bunch of different chapters to this campaign. We're in the first one, but here's the main menu. We've got our quick mission, which I'm assuming is just like a sort of randomly generated mission. And of course it's all during the winter, and I don't know where any of these campaigns are. I don't know where Novosokolniki is. I don't know where Lipino is. And then of course we have Stalingrad. and it's just basically all empty, empty Russia, because that's all Russia is empty. Not actually, of course. I'm just giving it a little bit of a stereotype here, but in the main menu, you get a nice little aircraft and a hangar and a Christmas tree for some reason. I guess that was from the holiday update. Then we can look at our profile. We can look and see, oh, we have 1 aerial victory, we have 1 Gruniet, we've got 5 sorties, 5 mission completes, and then total flight hours, and it's rounded down to the, or rounded to the nearest hour, I think it is. So we don't have a full hour of flight under our belt. We can look at our flight records, which I guess would be saved flights. We obviously have multiplayer, a bunch of different servers. I haven't touched any of this yet. So missions, there's individual missions, so you can do like airfield strike, dive bombing. This would be like a practice kind of mission. I guess 2 different versions of this one. Intercept Stuka flight, night strike for the Sturmovik, night transfer in the Stuka. So that's interesting. So you would relocate from one airfield to the other in the Stuka at night. So that's interesting. This was the first mission I did, was the takeoff landing comm in the Lag 3. And there's a crosswind landing in a 109, which is interesting. It's very difficult. The wind is serious business. And then this is a Yak 1 in Lupino, which I guess is a different theater, maybe? Oh, and I wanted to go through and show you the sort of options menu. We have our language, which I play in English because I am American, though there is Russian, German, and Polski, which is Polish, I believe. Measurement, which is plane dependent. Obviously, all these aircraft have the metric system, but if you're really into imperial units, you can use that. If you just don't like meters or kilometers per hour, if none of that makes sense in your head, there is that option for you. We have record sound. I'm not quite sure what that's for. I guess for in-game recording, there might be a recording tool that I haven't figured out here yet. I'm using Dextery to record per usual, but that might be interesting to check out. We have our flight interface, which is just the basic interface that we saw on the bottom left-hand corner of our sortie. Minimap, instrument panel, in-game messages, technical and tips, or just technical only, or none. You get color, blue friendlies, red enemies, or other way around, and you get transparency options for the HUD, which is nice. The controls. I thought these were really nicely done and intuitive. Coming from DCS, which I find is like the best control mapper on the planet, in terms of it's intuitive, it makes sense, and you can just go through it and map everything. This is not bad. Obviously, I have camera controls. This is the camera zoom that I had mapped to one of the hats on my X55 stick here, but it didn't seem to work, so I'm going to have to play with that. You got your pilot head control. If, for instance, you don't have track IR, it is very accessible for people without track IR, so that is a big plus. And then we have our aircraft control. There's some autopilot features for easy mode. We have pitch yaw, trimmers, trimmers for different aircraft, the adjustable electric stabilizer up and down for the 190, flap control, air brake control, attack siren for the Stuka. That's really cool. Obviously gear, which is a toggle. I wish I was an up-down like the flaps, but that's just me being picky. Tail wheel lock, that's important for takeoff and landing in the German aircraft. I don't believe the Russian aircraft have a tail wheel lock per se, or at least the ones that I flew didn't. We have our toe brakes for the German aircraft, obviously. In the Russian stuff, we didn't have that. We had the brake lever and differential braking and steering through the rudder pedals. We have cockpit lighting, nav lights, landing lights, gun sight, presumably sun filters. And our canopy, we have parking brakes. We have a reference pressure toggle for the altimeter, which is interesting. So if you have, say you're in flight and you want to set the barometric pressure to standard, so you can just do that no matter where you took off from. like you would presumably zero it from where you took off from, so you could get back there. But and then obviously eject, which we are going to try not to do. And then of course is IL2, so you have the engine control. Not like the absolute most in-depth engine control there is, but there is, you know, radiator controls for both your water radiator or your coolant and as well as oil. You have inlet cowl controls and outlet cowl controls, mixture control, throttle obviously, and prop pitch or prop RPM, and you can toggle all this on and off for automatic, which is interesting. And then of course you got the E for start and stop engine. There is no like individual keybinds for individual bits of the startup, and then engine boost, which is presumably MW50 injection for the German aircraft. I'm not sure what the deal is with the Russian aircraft. I'm not familiar with that. But if you have the control, or if you have the buttons for it, you can map it, which is really nice. I think for now I'm going to stick to the automatic stuff just because it's easier. But in the future, I could definitely see myself going for the manual stuff. We've got, you know, gun control, fire all guns, fire only machine guns, fire only cannons, which I don't get. I'd rather fire both. Bomb sight for certain aircraft. And then obviously fire rockets and some other stuff. And there, we have camera controls, which I'm doing pan camera mode, which is better for track IR, and then there's like centered quick view, gradual quick view. Presumably that's for if you don't have track IR and you have say a hat switch that you want to map to certain snap views that you can do, so that's nice. We have sound, which is, oh, this is interesting, we have different bit rates for sound, so we can increase the quality. We can accept that and we'll restart in a minute, but multiplayer options, traffic limit, I'm gonna go ahead and set those up, and then accept that. So that's really neat. Yeah, so the camera options are good. Oh, graphics options, here we go. So we have low, balanced, high, and ultra. I have GTX 980 in my system, so I run on ultra. Again, I had VSync on because of screen tearing. Multi-GPU support. So it does support, it looks like, Crossfire or SLI if that is something that you have. There is a frame limiter if that's your deal. I don't understand why you would ever want to limit frames. Maybe if you're not having screen tearing but you cap it at 60, maybe you won't. And there's anti-aliasing off 2 times and 4 times. I'm assuming that's MSAA since it's only up to the 4. And then various resolutions of whatever aspect ratio monitor you have. I have a 980, so it goes all the way up to 4K, which I could not imagine running this in. That would, at least on ultra settings, be very, very, very demanding. So I think I'll stick to 1920 by 1080 for now. And yeah, I think that's about it for the first look here in IL2 Battle of Stalingrad. I hope to have another video coming out soon, overviewing the individual aircraft, and presumably if we can get into some multiplayer, that would be really cool. I'm going to try playing through the campaign a little more and see if we can do some more interesting stuff, but maybe some missions. I don't know. Maybe even try out the quick mission stuff. Anyway, that's going to do it. I'm Bry Guy. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a like. If you're interested in seeing more, please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye-bye.